It's been over 4 years since the release of The Satanist, an album that will probably go down in history as one of the finest black metal, extreme metal releases in the world. Behemoth, Poland's Behemoth, did an incredible job of combining the fire and the fury of the genre with very memorable tracks. So popular was that album that they basically toured the hell out of it over every last couple of years, over the last couple of years. I mean, how many times did they go out and play the album in full as part of their set list? And to be honest, the popularity of the album, it kind of had fans and the band questioning whether it could ever really be topped. I mean, would Behemoth go into the next album, if there ever was one? Because at one stage, it did kind of seem as if we may never get a follow-up. I mean, the question was, would they go in and try and top it? It's a difficult one, because to try and top The Satanist could have gone very, very badly for Behemoth. And I think, having listened to I Loved You at Your Darkest, that's not what they're attempting here. This is an album with eye on the future. It's the 11th studio album of the band, and it's out now via Metal Blade Records. It opens with an intro that has a children's choir chanting away, kind of adds an early religious motif to the album. That is prevalent throughout the entire record, the religious motif, while not quite as heavy and at the forefront as, say, The Satanist or previous releases. Behemoth instantly showed that they're not lacking in passion as they kick into the crunch and heaviness of Wolves of Siberia. This is a safe sounding track for the extreme metalers. It's certainly the one you kind of want to open with, I think. The first sort of hitting oomph black metal track they've got. They know their fan base. They know who's coming into this record. So it's like, let's hit the Wolves of Siberia first. That'll get everyone comfortable. For God Equals Dog, a track that definitely leans heavily towards the bass, a much darker rhythm, and the passionate, desperate sounding vocals from Nurgle. This again has the children's choir in it. Now, I'm not a big fan of it here. I'm not a big fan of it throughout the album overall anyway, and I think here it adds a little bit of cheese that the track probably didn't need. It probably could have done without this. You might feel very differently. You might feel it adds a little bit more epicness to it, a little bit more religiousness, and that motif, as I said earlier on, to it. Here, I just think it comes across a bit too cheesy. It's really the middle portion that brings this album to life. Starting with Eskelia, Diabolica, Catholica, it has some of the strongest Behemoth songs to date. This middle portion, about 4 to 5 tracks, with a varying amount of fury. We get a restrained Behemoth here, leanings towards harder rock sound at times, as well as an all-out black metal assault. There is a huge amount of the worried religious establishment about the tracks, but it's certainly not at the forefront of the writing. Bartzabel is probably the strongest shout for the best track on the album. From the opening thumping of the drums, Bartzabel brings the heaviness and a slower, ominous approach. It's a different kind of style. It's filled with dark atmosphere, thick guitar riffs, contrasting vocals, both clean and heavy, for a more unique sounding Behemoth track. It's kind of a sign of things to come, because if Crucifixion was not enough is a sign of Behemoth stepping away from their corpse-painted roots, then Angelvis 13's intro is as black metal as they come. Both tracks are different, but not so much that they feel out of place. This is certainly where you sort of notice Behemoth having one eye on the future, while not ignoring their past. Look no further than Sabbath Faithful, Behemoth throwing out the ultimate version of this modern, newer, harder rock sound, even if it does have like Nurgle's howling vocals, giving it some oomph. It's the kind of track that will certainly divide fans. It's defiant in the sense that the band are clearly saying, like, this is where we're going, this is us now and us in the future. You either like it or you kind of disappear. But there is a question of just how far Behemoth are willing to push that sound, as shown in Havange Panacratia, a hypnotic, slower approach that flips over to a harsher black metal sound halfway through. While the switch isn't jarring, it does make you wonder why. Why not just stick with one particular sound? If this is what you want to sound like, go in that direction, because the transition just isn't the best here either. Rom 58 with its frantic guitar riffing is as close to the likes of Satanist as you're going to get on I Loved You at Your Darkest, while We Are the Next 1000 Years wraps things up with dark atmospheric melody and a little bit of heaviness and so on. It's not the final track, that's actually Coagula, and it's short smashing with instruments and a gothic tone, but that's more of an outro than anything else. You've got to kind of see We Are the Next 1000 Years as kind of the final Behemoth track for this album. There is no disputing that this is a great album. It's a great Behemoth album. However, this is a big however, it's clear that this is a transition album too. Behemoth have one foot in the future of their sound, this harder, rockier kind of thing they've got going on, and one foot in the black metal past. While they nail both sides well most of the time, there's no ignoring the fact that the band's unwillingness to kind of go in either direction, like, you know, they're always kind of sitting safely in the middle. One time they'll lean more towards the rock, one time they'll lean more towards the black metal. Most of the time they'll keep it carefully sitting right bang on the line. And that unwillingness to go either direction kind of hurts the overall quality. I do think this is an album that over time will be remembered more fondly, but I think on initial listens it might raise a few eyebrows, and certainly when you're comparing it to the previous release, The Satanist, it's not going to hold up as well. I think it's best you try and avoid doing that, because this is a different Behemoth album. Of course, opinions are subjective, that is the point, but overall it is a great album. It would be stupid to say, oh no, this is a terrible album, particularly if you're basing it off your opinions on previous releases. You can certainly see the direction Behemoth are planning to go based off this album. Whether that's for you, well, find out.